Hello and welcome to another Ableton tutorial video. Today I'm going to be talking about automation and just going through some of the basic ways that you can do it, as well as perhaps a few other approaches that you may not be familiar with. Alright, so we'll start with this piece here. We've got a few different tracks. We've got some bass, drums and two guitars. And perhaps what I want to do is use automation to bring in some rhythmic variations for the drums. So what I can do is I can select the B send over here on the drum track, which is the rectangular box. There's those two infinity boxes there. They are controlling the volume of the reverb in channel A and the delay in channel B for the send here down the bottom. So I'm going to play around with the delay. So if I press play and bring the delay up, see that brings it in. So perhaps I want to play with that. I'm going to turn automation mode on up here, which is the rectangular box with the two diagonal arrows. Now I can manipulate the parameters easily. So if I move it, you can see those red lines are moving up and down. So that's the one I want. So I can click a breakpoint there. And perhaps I want it to come up like this, maybe fairly intensely. And I can play that and see what it sounds like. And maybe I'll bring it down as well, just towards the end. So I get something like that. This is what it sounds like. Okay, so you can see that works. And if you have certain parts of your arrangement where you know you want certain effects to come in or certain controls, volume, panning, that sort of thing, then that would be probably the best way to do it. If you have something in mind that's a bit more consistent in terms of like you want to be able to perhaps just control that parameter up and down at a sort of constant rate, then there are other ways that you can do that that are quicker. So what I can do is I can get rid of all of that. Go back to arrangement mode. And let's see. So what I want to do is have a sort of an undulating effect on that delay, sort of going in and out. So I'm going to do it across two bars. So I'm going to select two bars there, and my automation lane is selected on the delay. That's good. Now if I control click, I can get this menu down here, and I can insert different shapes of waveforms. So I can insert a sine wave shape, and if I want to, if I press play, let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so that's interesting. What I want to do is actually select that and duplicate it. So here I'm gonna select that area there and go Command D and just duplicate that all the way across up until the bridge section. So now I have a nice sine wave constantly going up and down on that effect. So we have this sound. So you can see that's creating a constant effect, or it's having a constant change in effect for the delay, which is creating some consistency. So I can do that way. I can also do that another way using a Max for Live device, which is essentially just an oscillator that you can assign to any parameter. So I can search for LFO, and I will get it here, and I can click on that. And you'll see that down here it starts creating this wave. And if I press map, now the next thing that I click on will be what it maps to. So I'm going to click the delay again. And now you can see it's moving. You'll see it's moving here back and forth. And I can change, or press play and see what it sounds like. Kind of the same as what we had before. Perhaps I wanted to, well, yeah, I'll do it again. And I want to speed it up. Maybe I want to have it rhythmically set to a specific rhythmic subdivision. So I click the musical note, the time mode down there, and I can go the rate right up to sort of quarter notes. You can see it's moving in time, like that, with music. I could probably go a bit faster. So that's another way to create some interesting effects using an LFO. And you can see that that just keeps going. Even though I've pressed stop, you can see that the LFO is still moving that parameter because it's been assigned to it. So until I turn it off, it'll just keep doing that. So that's a useful tool to have if you want to create some more sort of unusual effects manipulation. I could assign that to anything. So let's say if I wanted to have a chorus effect on the guitar, I could do that, and I could assign it now. It doesn't even matter what track it's on, which is kind of interesting. So I can literally, the LFO was on the drum track, but now I've assigned it to the depth amount of chorus on the guitar. So that's going to, which is pretty intense. Maybe I'll change the rate. So that can get a bit, it can actually get a bit confusing. I would probably actually put the LFO, I'd probably put one on the track that I'm actually controlling, just so that I'm not completely confused about what's going on. But it's that simple. You can just map it to anything. So if I map to amount again, get it really slow. We get this out. We get a nice kind of shifting modulation on the chorus there. So that's the sort of effect that would be quite useful for. Okay, another thing I might want to do is perhaps create a effect on all of the tracks. So perhaps I want to put a filter on everything at the end of a particular section. So I can select the master track down here. I can go filter, and if I play everything, I can play around with this frequency, sort of do a classic sort of filter fade out, and I want to automate that. So I can literally go to the master. I've already got it selected there, so I can just say I want it to be so that that parameter goes right down to nothing over the last 2 bars, let's say. I could do that, whoops, like that. Or perhaps I want to kind of it go back up at the start of the next section. So it would sound like this. Okay. So I'd probably I'd tweak that so it wasn't so extreme on the entry, but you get the idea. Now, perhaps you're not working in arrangement view, you might be working in session view, and in that case, and you want to be able to do the same thing. Now, you can't do it exactly the same way, but you can, there is a way to do it. So if I go to session view, let's have a look. So here what I've done is I've kind of chopped up the clips of the different instruments into the different sections. So, and I've put them into scenes. So scene 1, I'm calling the verse, scene 2 is bridge, and then the breakdown. Each of the clips in this horizontal scene here are all 8 bars long, and in the next one they're all 8 bars long, and the next one they're 16 bars long. And so what I've done is if I press play on this scene, you'll see that all of those clips are queued up and ready to play at the end of the first scene. So basically what's going to happen, there's going to be no gap at the end. It's just going to go straight to the next section right about now, and then it kind of cues to the next section. So that's not automatic, that's using follow actions. So that's something you have to do in advance. Now, to do this, there's a few things that you'll probably want to do. You'll select all the clips. You will probably want to have them all warped, providing that you have everything, providing you're warping them to the correct tempo so you don't get any timing issues. It'll just make it easier to see the bar numbers and bar positions to do certain automation things later on. So you'll have them all warped. And what I want to do now is select that first row. I know it's 8 bars. I'm selecting all 4 clips there. And I'm going to enable the launch mode. So it might not be enabled. So you might have to click the L button down here to open that up. And I'm using follow actions. So follow actions are basically a set of commands that we can say that after X amount of time, do this command, whatever that is. So X amount of time in this case is 8 bars. So this set of boxes here tells you the time in bar numbers. So you've got 8 bars, and then you can break it down into different parts of the bar, different beats. So I know it's 8 bars exactly. The box underneath on the left tells you what command you want to happen after 8 bars. So after 8 bars, I want all of those clips to go to the next clip. And the boxes below, basically, you can have 2 different sets of follow actions, and you can kind of set up some randomness between which ones it's choosing. We don't need to worry about that in this case because we know that we want it to go after 8 bars. So we just do that one on the left. After 8 bars, it's going to go to that next scene. So we click the next scene, and we can select all of those clips there, and we do the same thing. So we know that's 8 bars long, and we want that to go to the next one as well. And then this one is 16 bars long. So I'm selecting all those. And after 16 bars, I've told it to go back to the first clip again. So essentially what would happen is it's basically going to go back to the start of the arrangement. So that's kind of a useful tool to have if you're working in session view and you want to sort of just go through the arrangement that way. Now you can do things like, for example, on one of the guitars we had our chorus effect, which I've taken away. Have I? Yes, I have. All right, I'll put it back on. Oh, not corpus. Wrong one. So in guitar here, I've got the chorus. I can select the clip, and I can turn on envelopes, and I can select the chorus effect here, and I might have, let's see, what is a parameter that I want to change? It's probably going to be the amount parameter. Is something I'd want to play around with a bit. So I can go back to that one, click down the bottom right, LFO amount, and if I just sort of zoom out a bit, so if I press play, I can put in some automation information here. So you'll see that it's playing around with the effect. If I click on that, you'll see it's kind of gone now, but you'll see how. Let's try again. So you see that's moving slowly. Okay. So we can go through the same process we did before. We can insert automation like that. If we control click and insert a shape, we can do that and sort of duplicate that the way we were doing it before. Perhaps I want to go like, all right, over like a one, well, that's a 1 bar section. Yeah, I want to go like, insert that shape, and I duplicate it, and then I get that sound. And you'll see that you'll get the nice consistent movement. Again, you could do the LFO thing like we did before. That's all the same kind of thing. But what if we wanted to do the auto filter trick where we have it on everything? Now, you'd think, oh, you could put a clip in the master bus and then sort of put the filter commands there and it would do it. But you can't insert clips on the master track in session view. But there is a way around that. So what you can do is you create what's called a submaster. So in this case, we're going to create an audio track. And to start with, we're going to make the audio coming from nowhere, so no input, because we don't want the microphone to go in or anything else that I've got running in there. What I want to do is then I'm going to rename this submaster. Okay, then I select all of these tracks here, go to the output, the audio to, and down the bottom, submaster is an option. So I'm sending the audio to the submaster. So now, all of those tracks will be routed into that submaster audio track. So it acts like a master, but it's got the option now we can insert clips and control different effects on that master track. Now if I press play, let's see what happens. We can see levels, but we get no sound. That's because we need to make sure that the monitor is set to in on the submaster. Now we can hear everything we need. Okay, now these clips are moving like we had with the follow actions, which is great, but there's nothing in the submaster doing that yet, and we want that submaster to be syncing up with the rest, so everything's moving through the arrangement in the right way. So what I need to do is create some dummy clips. So dummy clips are when you take an audio clip and reduce or take out the signal, so reduce it to nothing, and then you have an audio clip that essentially can be manipulated for effects parameters using automation. So if I select these 3 clips going vertically down, I know I've got 8 bars, then 8 bars, then 16 bars. Now all of the tracks are 8 bars, 8 bars, 16 bars, so it doesn't matter which one I select. I'm just going to select these ones because they're closest, copy them, and I'm going to paste them into here. So now, if I do this, you'll see that the submaster has its own set of clips that are going to be in sync with all the other ones, which is great. Now, I'm going to select those clips as well and go down to the bottom right, and I'm going to turn the volume down on all of them so the wave disappears, so that we're not having to kind of look at that unnecessarily, because it might get a bit confusing as to which is which. So now we've got these things working. Okay, I want to do the auto filter trick. So I can put the auto filter on the submaster. And if we wanted to work the same way it did before, like doing the last 2 bars of that verse section, basically what I can do is select that first dummy clip, go down to the bottom right, and what are we doing here? Okay, so I want to turn on the envelopes. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Where are we? Yep, okay, so if I press play now, there we go, there's our area. These clips were all cut out of much bigger ones, which is why there's all this extra empty space around. So I want the last 2 bars for the auto filter to kick in. So I can select in the envelope area, make sure it's turned on, auto filter effect, and then a parameter. In this case, I want it to be the frequency. I'm going to select, I'm going to put a node there, and I'm going to put one right at the end, and it's going to go down on that slope like that. If I want to, I can play around with the curves. I could press Alt, and that would change the shape of the curve a little bit. Or I can do what I did before and put in like a different type of curve there as well, which sort of is not necessary. You see, that's more of a slight fade thing. So I don't really want that shape at all, to be honest. Whoops. Let me just do that again. So I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to just go a slight kind of curve there on it. Okay, so now let's see what happens if I press play. See that the automation is armed, and it should start moving shortly. Great. And of course it goes right back to the start, because now that automation on that clip ran out and it's reset to being on again. So I'd have to make some adjustments in this clip to kind of make it a bit smoother or whatever. But you can see that that's how you can get that kind of automation to work using a submaster, which is very useful for that type of thing. So that's automation in session view and automation in arrangement view, and using some of the Ableton shapes, such as these ones down here, and using the Max for Live LFO device to control automation. So hopefully that's given you some ideas to get creative with your automation for your arrangements. I hope you found the video helpful, and thanks for watching.